Today is Tuesday. A lot's going on in the world. Practically every country has got a beef with every country and with us. So things are all sketchy. I just got out of my wheelchair, so I'm sore because like Wheelchair Dan, he'll get on his page and he'll cry because he spends a lot of time in his wheelchair. It is excruciating after a while because of the downward force on the body with no muscularity to offset it. After a while, it becomes excruciating to sit in the wheelchair. But that's how I like to pray. So that sent me prayer requests. I've been absolutely faithful to pray for you and your family, your children, to pray for protection that God will guard and protect you, guide you, keep you, give you wisdom, strength, energy for today, all the good stuff. So if you get a breakthrough, by all means hop back on the comments and let us know. Don't forget to keep each other lifted up. I see some of you are talking to each other on the comments, so we got a little family going on, which is nice. I'm getting some back vibration in my left ear, which is kind of uncomfortable. I forgot to flush it this morning. So you all sent me an ear flush kit, and it's quite nice for flushing the ears out. I'm very careful about my ears and everything. I'm on the tripod that Dibble Craftian so kindly sent me. Uh, I had my coffee in the morning. I don't do a lot of coffee with PopPop videos anymore because, like I said, it hurts to be in the wheelchair. And there are times when it hurts so bad, I got to roll out real quick and then hop back into bed. So a lot of good videos this week. Watchmen, really good videos. Tom has got a good heart. And Canadian Prepper. It saddens me about Nate because he's atheist. And he goes into all this information about the different countries that are at WAR with each other. And he keeps saying by his own words, it's biblical, what's going on, like the Euphrates River drying up was prophesied, hundreds or thousands of years ago in the Bible, and now it's come true. And the Bible says that the kings of the East will actually march off to WAR along the riverbed of the Euphrates. Who would have thought Euphrates would just dry up. I mean, that would seem like such an impossibility. And the cool thing is when these rivers dry up, they find all sorts of archaeological statues and things like that. So I think a lot of this is on purpose because, like I said before, these people that run they think so far out of the compared to the normal person, like like the the plans for that in 1954. I think those plans were extra because the technology in 1954, anything Large Hadron Collider entails. They're spirits or beings from another dimension that want to be unlocked. So they literally sent the plans for the building of that thing because they know that it can unlock multiple dimensions. And another magnetic field is so strong from that collider. I think pretty much that they're trying to tow that landmass out from under the ice in Antarctica because there's a huge landmass and they found that it has pyramids on it and they want to repopulate the world. All start with this land under Antarctica. And I know, for example, when I first moved here, the street was perfectly north and south the way it ran. But now, if you go outside with the compass will point like 15 degrees west. And the sun is in the wrong position at night. Around 7:30 at night, we get a noonday sun. 7:30 at night, and the sun is so blazing hot that it's worried me about or going to combust. Sunshine coming through the window, and I've actually felt the sunshine on my head to the point where I was getting burned indoors from the heat on the. And there will be time, and I have a fan running, and my room will still be like 84 degrees with the air conditioning. Fleas. I don't know how these fleas got into my room, but these fleas have been and putting down baking soda on the carpet and everything, trying to keep the cases of my blankets in the freezer overnight to freeze the little buggers off of my blankets. And they can hop really high up with some alcohol, and I vacuum put something in the vacuum cleaner to kill the fleas. Borax. I got borax, but borax is $20 a box. And to tell you, I have the borax for a nuclear event because if there's radiation in the rain after a nuclear event, you can splash onto the sidewalk and onto your grass and neutralize a good deal of the radiation. And at $20 a box, I'm going to hold the borax back because I can still use lemon spray. I can still use witch hazel spray, alcohol, so many cheaper things, cloves that I can use, lemon rind in water, uh, rosemary. Rosemary I don't have, but there's so many things that fight fleas. And I put a pad on the floor at night with the light shining on the pad, and all the little suckers, they jump on the pad and get stuck. It's amazing. It's amazing how many get stuck on the pad. But the only thing I can think of is that somebody, when they delivered, from Amazon, or when they came and worked in the room, they must have walked through the grass and brought fleas on their shoes. But good morning. You just came in, so you're all ready for some sleep then. But like I said, I've been faithful for all of you that ask for prayer. I've been faithful. I've kept the TV turned off so I can hear from the good Lord in my spirit. So it's all good. I had a very simple breakfast this morning of a couple of eggs and an orange. My blood pressure was too high this morning to have coffee, so I really missed the coffee. But I'm very careful about everything. There's so much going on in the world, and it's all coming to a head. The environment and the WARS and these people in Washington are trying to get everybody at each other's throats, saying that it's the other person's fault that we don't have enough of this or enough of that, you know? And it makes me sad. It makes me sad because it's always these old octogenarians that send the young people off to WAR. And the young people go off and they're marching to music and they're proud and they got the flags, and they come back just filthy dirty with their hands and feet blown off and missing arms and eyes and everything. It's terrible. And then you see them out on the street, which should never happen. We have over 40,000 homeless U.S. veterans who served this country bravely and gave their lives up. Many of them left good jobs to go off to WAR, and they came back and they couldn't deal with their family. They couldn't get their job back, and they wound up taking stuff, painkillers that the hospital gave them, and then they get addicted to that. It's terrible. It's terrible. And many of them are like 18, 19 years old. Like the three men who were trapped on one of the ships during Pearl Harbor. And in any case, Japan attacked us at 8:45 in the morning on a Sunday morning when all the men were below decks, and they had the security doors open, to get the air going through the ships. So when the ships got hit, they went right to the bottom. And one ship had 1,500 men on it. Hey, Justin. And a couple of the ships rolled over, and you could hear the men banging from inside of the ships, you know, and they were hoping for rescue. And then the Navy found out that when they tried to cut through the hull of the ship, it would ignite any gases inside and kill the men anyway. And then they would have to repair the hole that they cut in the ship. So they made a choice not to rescue all of these men and just let them die trapped upside down in these ships in Pearl Harbor. And then they didn't say anything to the families. And this one group of 3 men were in a airtight room, which was like off of a kitchen. So they had food, they had water, they had flashlights. They lasted upside down, trapped for over 2 weeks. Can you imagine being upside down, running out of air, counting off the days that you think that you're going to be rescued? And then it finally dawns on you that you're not going to be rescued. One man was 18, one was 19, and the other guy was 20. And they found them huddled all together in their last moments. And then they cleaned the ships out. They turned the ships right side up and got rid of the BODIES and refloated the ships, and then went back after Japan. But Barack Obama went to Japan and apologized on the part of the United States. I was livid when that happened, to tell you the truth, because Japan starved POWs. They marched them to DEATH. They beheaded some of them. Some of them they experimented with sleep deprivation. Others they dipped into ice water to see how long that they would last. And the worst of all was some of the men they performed vivisection on, which is they strapped them down to an operating room and started to cut them open while they were still alive, and they cut the men open. Nothing was ever said in the United States about that, but Bathhouse Barry went over to Japan and apologized for our part in the WAR when we had been surprised attacked on December 7th, 1941. And I'm sorry if it offends anybody, but PopPop would never drive a Japanese car or a French car. American servicemen went over to France to help free the French, and the Vichy French turned on our servicemen and fired on them and slaughtered them when we went over to France to try and liberate the French. And we never got thank you, kiss my butt, go to heck, or anything for that. And the French owed us money, and the French were the ones that got America involved in Vietnam, because the French were in Vietnam. And it's always the same thing with these countries. They go to WAR, to help one side or the other, figuring that after the WAR, they'll get some sort of compensation, either for helping the country or having a stronghold in that country where they can make that country a proxy, like so many countries did to Africa, where the men are mining diamonds and they're not getting any of the money. They're not getting a penny from the diamonds. So they're having to stick diamonds up their nose and up their butt and swallow diamonds to try and sneak them out of the mines. And the mining companies actually pan the stuff that the guys go to the bathroom to make no there's no diamonds in the poop, that greedy. And so these men are risking their lives down in mines. Same thing with the uranium mines. Men are down in mines and they're mining this stuff, getting radioactivity, you know, and living very short lives. Men in coal mines, who wind up can't breathe after a few years. I worked with a guy on a garbage truck, and he mined coal in West Virginia. And he told me of being in a 4 foot tall mine shaft in 2 feet of water. So you figure you're in a mine shaft and a foot or two is water. So you're up to your knees in water. You can't stand up. You got to spend all day bent over breathing coal dust. And this guy, did it to provide for his family. He recently passed away last December. Nicest guy that I had ever worked with on the garbage truck. He thought the garbage truck was the greatest job on earth compared to the coal mine. He was a master mechanic. He was very rough and crude, but always friendly. Carried a couple 100 pounds of garbage on his back with a smile on his face. Always had a laugh. When another truck would have a route that was down, he would run up to the truck and hop on to help the men out. I mean, a really big heart. I hope he's in heaven. And he liked this one color blue. Everything he had, he painted blue. I used to call it Harold Blankenship blue. His car, his truck, he loved this one color blue. And there's psychologically something with people who like the color blue or like autumn rust colors like orange. I forget what the term is called. But people who like blue, there's a name for it. But this guy painted everything blue. And then I worked for another trash company. The guy was the same way, had a blue house, blue trucks, blue shop. He was a very mean-hearted man. But the other guy was a delight to be around. Made the day go by fast. Made you want to work your heart out. When you got somebody who's working as hard as they can and you want to keep up with them, it really makes for a good team effort. And life went by so fast because all of this seemed like it was yesterday. It all seemed like it was yesterday. And so many of my friends and family are on the other side. And I'll tell you, fam, it's not easy for me because I get up in the morning and I decree and I declare God's word that I shall not die, but live to declare the glories of God. God tried to pull me to him earlier in life, and I was always too busy trying to put food on the table or put a roof over my head. So many people tried to help me, and a few tried to lead me in the devil's way. I even had a sister. Who I taught how to drive. I was 17 and she was like 40. And after I taught her how to drive, she would take us to bars and hotels and to arts theaters, which have the really dirty porno movies, you know, a really bad influence. I hope she got saved. I got to the point where after the Lord started to tug on my heart, if I was at a picnic or something with the family and the one sister came over, I would get up and leave because I couldn't stand to look at her. You know, for one thing, I was ashamed, of everything that we had gotten into, going out drinking and stuff. I bought her a Jimi Hendrix Sparkle shirt, and she took her shirt off right in the middle of traffic and wiggled into this Jimi Hendrix shirt and almost caused a massive car accident at the intersection. That's the kind of stupidity that the devil makes you think, oh, that's really cool, that's hip. It's not. In the light of the glory of God and the purity of God, when that's up there on the screen of life, it'll shrink you down to a worm, a little worm. You're like, God, how could I have ever allowed that? How could I have ever let that happen? You know? But and it's hard. It's hard to erase that stuff out of your mind. It takes a long time and you have to ask God to help you. When I had the accident, a lot of things were erased out of my memory. So it was almost like a good thing. It was almost like a good thing because it put me on a path to salvation. I don't enjoy the physical problems I've had ever since the accident, but I enjoy the knowledge that someday this whole mess will be over. And for you young people, you should be excited about God's kingdom because when you think about it, any good thing that you have in life now is from God. So we're living in God's backyard. We're not in God's house yet, but we're kind of living in his backyard, not enjoying the best. For people who are on their way to hell, this is as good as it's ever going to be. For people on their way to heaven, this is as bad as it's ever going to be. So there's a dividing line. If you don't make your choice for Christ in this life, it's like deciding to not pay the electric bill and you're going to be in the dark, literally. And it's not going to be a kegger in hell, listening to rock and roll and drinking PBR and smoking weed and hanging out with your buds. It's going to be falling in the never ending pit in the darkness, weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's going to be hot, thirsty. And see, the things of God are always fulfill you. You can tell whatever is of the enemy because it's like anything the enemy gets you into, drugs or smoking or drinking or sex, it's never enough. It's never enough. It's like me with macaroni and cheese and chocolate pudding. I've never ever had in my lifetime enough macaroni and cheese or potatoes au gratin or chocolate pudding. Never. I could eat it a whole day and it wouldn't be enough. And that's the way the things that the enemy tempts you with. I'm joking about the macaroni and cheese and the pudding. I mean, that's not of the enemy, but the things like cigarettes and alcohol and drugs are, they're definitely from the enemy, because alcohol has always been called spirits, because when you drink, you open up your mind and your life to all sorts of demonic influences. But in any case, fam, I love you all. I keep you all in prayer, and I have been absolutely faithful to those of you that have asked me for prayer. Like I said, I haven't been hanging out with the TV on. I've been sitting in the wheelchair, lifting you all up to the good Lord. And I'm not saying that I'm anything special. Don't get me wrong about that. But I do take the time to snug up to God. And it takes time to build a relationship. I used to have a sister, and I could tell when she called my father, because the only time that she ever called my father was when she wanted something. And I would see my father pick up the phone. All he would say is hello, and she would immediately start in on what she needed. And I would see my father turn red as a stop sign. So I knew it was her on the other end. And she always brought her drama and everything else to the family, and never said thank you or anything after you helped her. I uh I helped her one summer. The Lord told me to go buy the biggest air conditioner that would run on 115 volts and take it to her little bungalow in Tacoma Park. And I had an Olds Tornado back then, a big, low, long car. I put the air conditioner in the trunk. The air conditioner was so big that it wouldn't fit in the massive trunk of the Tornado. And then when I went up her driveway, it tore the bottom out of the car because her driveway was so rough, and the car was scraping against the sidewall of the driveway. I almost destroyed the car getting it up into the driveway. I had to hump the air conditioner into the house by myself, present it to her. And then years later, when things turned for me, I asked her if I could spend a little time at her house till I got back on my feet. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't do men." But in 1967, which was another bad year for me, her husband went after her with an axe because he got tired of all of the drama, and he chopped the mantle over the fireplace. He chopped the color TV in half. She went to call the cops. He chopped the phone off the wall, and they came and they took him to Bellevue or someplace like that. And she had an affair with the neighbor while her husband was in the hospital. And I had to come and stay with her. They were having riots that year in Washington, and all this stuff was going on. And for a young boy, that was a lot of responsibility that my family put on me. There wasn't any food in the house. I made do on like a half a peanut butter sandwich a day. The whole house was torn up. There were people rioting outside. The people came down the street and they would bang on cars with baseball bats as they came down the street, setting Washington on fire. I mean, it was a really stressful year. And this man came up the driveway, and I told him to back off and get off the property and all. He kept coming up to the house, and I screamed, "Wolf!" Her German Shepherd's name was Wolf, and the dog came and put its nose against the screen door and growled, and that made the guy decide that it wasn't worth it to try and get into the house. But in any case, I went through all that with my sister. Never got thank you, kiss my butt, go to heck, or anything from the lady. So she recently passed. I hope she's in heaven because she had a lot of drama with her and she didn't go easy. And it hurt me to find out that she had passed. My blood pressure stayed up for a couple of days, really high from the upset that I felt. And it's another one of those things where I'm very protective of myself because people don't realize that my health is frail and they'll tell me something upsetting like, well, your sister just passed. Have a good night. Click. And dump that information on me, not realizing that it's not the best thing to tell somebody who's older than God, and get them all upset. But in any case, I've learned a lot during my life. I try and pass it on to you young people to keep you all from the pitfalls that I fell into in life. And again, I'll tell you, I love you. I care about you. I am faithful to pray for you. Pop D Pop's out.